For months, I begged my wife for intimacy. Every night became a quiet reminder of how far we drifted. The space between us wasn't just physical anymore. It was emotional, spiritual, invisible until it started choking everything else. I used to think marriages fade gradually, like the slow flicker of a candle running out of wax. But ours? It felt like someone blew it out all at once. Her name was Claire. We'd been married for 8 years, together for 10. In the beginning, she was warm, playful even. I can still hear her laugh as we cooked together, sneaking bites of pasta when she thought I wasn't looking. But over the last year, that version of her had vanished. She went from running to hug me when I came home to barely glancing up from her phone. I tried to fix it the way men usually do, gently, cautiously, afraid to push too hard. I asked if something was wrong, if I'd done anything to upset her. Every time, she brushed it off. I'm just tired. You're imagining things. So I waited, told myself she'd come around, but she didn't. Days turned into months of rejection. I'd reach for her, and she'd turn away. I'd try to kiss her, and she'd mumble something about being exhausted. Eventually, I stopped sleeping next to her, not because I was angry, but because the rejection hurt worse than being alone. There's a special kind of heartbreak in lying beside the person you love and feeling completely unwanted. One night, after another wordless dinner, I asked her if she was still attracted to me. She sighed, the kind of sigh that carries annoyance. You always make everything about sex, she said flatly. It's not about sex, Claire. I replied, try and keep calm. It's about connection. It feels like you're not here anymore. She rolled her eyes. Not everything has to be about you, Daniel. That was the moment I knew something had shifted for good. After that, I stopped asking, stopped waiting for her to reach for me, stopped searching for her between silences. I started coming home later, sitting in my truck for an hour before walking in. The quiet inside the house was louder than anything I'd ever heard. Soon, I quit trying to start conversations altogether. When she finally asked what was wrong, I said, nothing. The same word she'd used on me so many times. The irony wasn't lost on me. A few weeks later, I noticed she'd changed her phone password. She'd always been private, but this was different. Some nights, I'd see her texting someone, the glow of the screen lighting her face, a faint smile appearing, the kind I hadn't seen in months. I wanted to believe it was harmless, but your gut never lies. So I didn't confront her. Not yet. I just watched. The following weekend, she mentioned going out with friends from work. Normally, I'd have asked who, where, when, but that night I didn't. I just nodded. Have fun. She looked surprised, maybe even nervous. You're not mad? She asked. No, I said. You deserve a good night out. That evening, I stayed home, ordered takeout, watched a movie alone. For the first time in months, I didn't stare at the clock, wondering when she'd come back. I didn't picture where she was or who she was with. I just sat there, quietly realizing that I'd finally stopped fighting for something already dead. She came home after midnight, smelling faintly of a perfume that wasn't hers. She avoided my eyes, mumbled something about traffic, and disappeared into the bedroom. I didn't follow. I just sat there, staring down the hallway, feeling a strange mix of sadness and relief. Because deep down, I knew the part of me that had begged for her affection had finally died, and in its place, something colder, quieter, and far stronger began to take root. The next morning, I woke before she did. The sunlight cut through the blinds, falling across her face. She looked peaceful, the kind of peace that once made me smile. Now, it only reminded me how far apart we drifted. I made coffee and sat in the kitchen, staring at the stillness of a life that no longer fit either of us. When she came down, she acted like everything was fine. Morning, she said softly. I nodded. She poured herself coffee, scrolled through her phone, and asked, Working late again tonight? Yeah, I said. It was a lie. I wasn't working late. I just couldn't stand being home anymore. The house had become a museum. Every photo, every chair, every shared object frozen in time, stripped of meaning. That night, instead of going to work, I drove to the beach. I sat for hours, listening to the waves crash, trying to remember the last time I felt like myself. Somewhere along the way, I'd stopped being Daniel, her husband, and turn into Daniel, the man begging for scraps of affection. Weeks passed quietly after that. She went out more, dressed differently, laughed louder when she talked on the phone. I stopped asking who she was with. It's strange. Once you stop fighting for someone's attention, you start seeing the truth much more clearly. Then one night, I came home to find her waiting at the kitchen table, her expression guarded. "We need to talk," she said. Those 4 words that always spell the end. I sat down across from her. "Go ahead." She exhaled, looking everywhere but at me. I don't think this is working anymore. I need space." "Space." I repeated. "You mean you want to separate?" She hesitated, biting her lip. "I think it's for the best. We've both changed." I waited a beat, then asked, "Is there someone else?" Her eyes widened, offended. "Why would you even say that?" I gave a faint smile. "Because I've seen how you've been lately. Happier, lighter, just not with me." She didn't answer. Just silence. The same silence that had filled our house for months. I stood, walked to the counter, and picked up my mug. "You know," I said quietly, "for months I begged you to talk to me, touch me, just look at me the way you used to. You refused every time. And now, when I finally stopped asking, suddenly you want space." I looked at her evenly. Guess we're finally on the same page. I left the room before she could respond. Over the next few days, I started packing. Not in anger, just necessity. I found a small apartment across town. Quiet. Simple. She didn't try to stop me. Maybe she was relieved. The night before I moved out, she came into the living room while I was folding clothes. "So that's it?" she asked. "You're just walking away?" I looked up at her. "Claire, I spent months trying to hold this together. You're the one who left. You just did it slower." She didn't answer. Tears filled her eyes, but I didn't move to comfort her. I'd spent too long chasing someone who didn't want to be caught. The next morning, I left my key on the counter, took one last look around the house, and walked out. The air outside felt lighter, cleaner. I didn't feel victorious, just free. In the weeks that followed, she texted a few times, small things. "Hope you're okay. Saw your brother today." I replied at first, politely, then stopped altogether. There's no point talking when the bridge has already burned itself to ash. Months later, a friend mentioned she was seeing someone new. I wasn't surprised. What did surprise me was how little it hurt. The man who once begged for her affection no longer existed.